welcome. It's a lovely Wednesday afternoon, and I'm here with the lovely Bron Williams. And we have had a previous live stream before. We're going to continue the conversation. And actually, we're actually literally going to continue a conversation that we had just before the
Mm.
live stream started. And that is the role of, say, makeup, with regards to women and society's expectations. Bron, would you like to share what you just told me a little bit earlier? I'll put you on the
Sure,
spot.
sure.
Yeah.
Ah, what I had been talking about was the intentional decision that I have made
Yeah.
to not wear makeup when I do podcasts and
Mm,
presentations. Doesn't mean I never wear makeup,
mm,
but on the whole, I've chosen not to. And that's because, I keep thinking, why is it that men can just walk out of the house and nobody expects their eyes to look a particular way or to have blush on, or they
Sure.
don't think, oh, I must put this right shade
Yeah.
of lipstick on, and yet
Mm,
there's an expectation that
mm,
women look a particular
mm,
way.
mm, mm.
And so, and I think part of it is about me becoming more comfortable
Yeah.
with how I look, and particularly
Yeah.
how I look as I age.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
also think that there is so much messaging for women around what we should look like that
Mm,
often women don't
mm,
see a natural looking older woman,
mm.
and we don't start to we are unable to appreciate our own beauty because it's always covered up and it's always made to look like something that we're not. So I think it comes back to authenticity.
Mm, mm. Okay, I'm back on. Yeah,
Yeah.
guys, we're guys as in you, the audience person. We're having a little bit of a Wi-Fi challenge, so hope you don't mind. We're just gonna keep talking as if the connection never broke up. So thanks, Bron. As you were talking, I thought about two really conflicting things that I see. First of all, I know that makeup dates back all the way to ancient
Yes.
civilizations. We have, uh, beauty being a massive uh, thing, that for example, a king required of, his, and then they have this, whole court of people who are, skilled in, just like
Mm.
the presentable. And then, I love the British, they have these wonderful ideas where they take, girls who are so heavily made up, and then they get them into this, like a giant mirror, and then I'm sure there are teams in the background who help this girl, and just remove all the extraneous stuff, and we often see really beautiful girls, women who, without the makeup, without the heavy, color,
Yes.
and now we have the extreme,
Mm.
colored hair and all that. Just wondering
Yeah.
if you have any thoughts as to what I just shared, and from an angle, because I know that you are doing your PhD on unconscious bias, whether you can shine a little bit of that PhD light into what I was just talking about.
Oh, look, I love that. That's a great sort of segue and
Mm,
connection to make, because I do think like our biases have so much to do with expectations, assumptions. This is perhaps how our biases show up as expectations, assumptions, standards. Like there's nothing wrong with having a standard, but when a standard sets a norm that
yeah,
is not realistic,
yeah.
or which doesn't allow for flexibility.
Mm,
So yes, I think, and and you're quite right. I loved the fact that you said that makeup goes back to ancient times, and as you said that, I was thinking particularly of the Egyptians who
yeah,
had the
yeah,
kohl around their eyes,
yeah.
and and that was both men and women. So it wasn't
Mm.
just a female thing, but
Right.
also, a
Mm.
lot of Middle Eastern um, rulers who had harems, and the women
Mhm.
were bathed in all sorts of different things and spices and things that made
Sure.
beautiful for the king. So there's been,
Smells.
yeah,
That
smells as
wow,
well. And
that's
look,
a
yeah,
multi-billion dollar industry. Yeah.
that's right.
You
And
step
look,
into
I love a
chemist
good.
warehouse and then you're greeted with all the fragrances, the first things, right?
That's right. And look, and I love a good perfume and I love a good cologne on men. So it's not that I'm anti any of these things, but it's
Sure.
about being
Yeah.
aware perhaps
Mm,
of the messaging
mm,
that we're sending as much to ourselves
mm.
as we are to other people. And
Mm.
as I did that, I saw my purple fingernails. So there are still things that I do because I like them, but um,
Sure.
but I think it's about awareness, and I think that's the
Mm,
thing with
mm,
unconscious bias,
mm.
as it's part of how we think, and it is
Yeah.
one of the two sort
Yeah.
of ways in which we think.
Mm.
So much of it happens quickly and without conscious thought.
Yeah.
But it's about becoming aware of how can it turn up in your own
Mm,
life, and
mm.
is it actually working against
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
Rather than just always thinking that unconscious bias has to be wrong,
Mm-hmm.
because most of our biases come out of
Mm.
um, situations where either ourselves or our culture have wanted to keep us safe. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
person is safe, this
Ah.
person can be trusted, this person can't, all of
Mm,
those sorts of things.
mm, mm, mm,
But we
mm,
can get the we
mm,
can get the have the
mm.
opportunity to say, is this way of thinking actually helpful? And I think that's what I've done with the makeup thing. As I said, I will, if I am on stage
Mhm.
presenting, I will wear a full a face
Mm,
of makeup. It won't be
mm,
heavy, but it
mhm.
will be made up because I just feel comfortable
Sure.
doing that
Sure.
in a room of
Yeah.
200,000
Yeah.
people, however
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
there are.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
However, by and large, I don't wear makeup
Mm,
because I'm happy with my face, and I think that's taken me a long time to get there, because I think it's this messaging, this messaging that's playing in our heads as
yeah.
well,
Yeah.
that's not helpful, that says,
Mhm.
unless you look a particular way,
Mhm. Mhm.
then you're not up to scratch, you're
Mhm.
not beautiful.
Mhm.
Whereas, what you've said previously about
Yeah.
that British program which actually stripped away the layers
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
from women,
Yeah.
to actually find truly beautiful women
Mm.
underneath who have their own unique beauty,
Yeah.
because so often makeup makes us look like each other.
Mm. Mm. Yes. That's a good point. That's a good point. Um, right. So I was just thinking just now about um, the 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 reason we got to give people a reason why they need to consider their own unconscious bias. Otherwise, I mean, like, they walk away not realizing, right? So, and I think about the implications of not being aware of our unconscious biases, and that could be purely personal, right up to a corporate level, right up to a
Yes.
national level, right up to an international level. And I guess, for example, the global trade tensions and the geopolitics that we've seen this year,
Mhm.
and specifically, for example, I'm thinking, the Americans, and the
Yeah.
MAGA movement and all that, and the the thinking that led to where we are today, which
Yes.
is all the strong messaging, that's coming out
Yeah.
of America. I think that there is, yeah, like I said, there are implications, so we need to uncover and make sure that we understand all that. But I think also maybe for the average person, there could be, from a, yeah, lack of a better phrase, a selfish level, impacts on one's career, impacts on how that person is seen by the bosses, for example,
Yes.
or family, for those of us who are not so career minded,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Would you like to share a little bit about motivation?
Mm.
Yeah.
Look, yeah, I think what you said is really spot on, because
Mm.
the thing that I have observed as I've done my research is that our unconscious biases can impact our relationships, and they also
Yeah.
impact our decision making. In that, we will sometimes, or say in the workplace, we can, we can assign job assignments to people
Yeah.
based solely on something that we haven't even thought about. You know, we give those maybe privileges to people who are a bit like us. Whether that is skin tone, age, because they're like us, we have this instinctive sense that we can trust them. Now, just because another person is my age and white skinned actually doesn't mean they're any more trustworthy than someone, sorry if I can, who looks like you. You
Sure.
know what I'm
Sure.
saying? You and I actually have quite different physical appearances. We have different
Yes.
racial backgrounds.
Yes.
Does not, but instinctively we gravitate as human beings to people who are like ourselves, because we
Mhm.
know, we have, even the most unself-aware of us have an understanding of ourselves, and we think, okay, I'm okay, therefore a person who looks like me or
Mhm.
has been to the same school as me um,
Sure. Sure.
must be trustworthy.
Mhm.
But it's not always the case, and often we miss out
Mhm.
personally
Mhm.
or in our team on people
Mhm.
who have the most amazing skills, who could actually
Yeah.
become good friends, who
Sure.
could help us um,
Mm.
progress in our careers, because
Mhm.
we have had a narrow vision, like a tunnel vision.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
one of the metaphors that I use for bias, unconscious biases, can be a bit like blinkers. Like you put blinkers on a horse
Sure.
so that they're not
Yeah.
distracted by the things around them and
Yeah.
see ahead.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
blinkers on human beings is not very
Mm.
helpful, because we actually need
Mm.
our peripheral
Yes.
vision
Yeah.
to be able to see a broader range of things. So, yeah, so our biases can really get in the way, but it's the fact that we actually get to choose. Um, a number of years ago, a good friend of mine who was also my coach, Jacqueline Brooker, she said, "Oh, how about you look at bias as a data point?" And I thought, oh gosh, I hadn't thought about it like that. That when we learn something about our biases, we've learned something new about ourselves. It's a data point. And from there, we can make decisions. Is this a good piece of information? Is this bias helpful to me?
Mhm.
Or do I need to put it aside when it comes up each time? I go, no, I'm not going to take that path.
Mhm.
I want to do something different. And so we can grow and change.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you. I like that point about that data point.
Mm,
Pardon the pun. Um, and I think that I'm still going to cling on to this motivation thing, because
yeah,
I think I like to really impress on people that it is important. And from, for example, an entrepreneurial point of view, I mean, imagine if, like, let's say, taking the what your just now your point about you looking different than me. Imagine if, let's say, that you were trying to sell a service to 1,000 of me. For example, like a neighborhood where the people just like me, right? It's a
mm,
really ethnic neighborhoods, and I mean, we have to be clear here. Australia, for
yeah,
example, is such a place. I reckon it's similar in the rest of the world. That there are neighborhoods, groups of people, who large groups of people who share the same not just physical appearance, but also deep cultural, shared
Yes.
values.
Yeah.
And the data points, I mean, we're in the age of AI. We're talking about the importance of data. And large
Yes.
companies are spending, billions of dollars into AI and data. So wouldn't it be advantageous to executives and directors to be aware that there is actually bias at the corporate level,
Yeah.
blocking a large billion-dollar company from $1 billion market, for example?
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It certainly makes fiscal sense
yeah,
to have a broader um, diversity of employees
sure.
and also, at board level. And I
Yeah,
think looking at what is happening in the United States at the moment
mhm,
with the current administration
sure.
reducing DEI
Yeah,
spending,
yeah,
insisting that
yeah,
anything that's remotely
yeah,
DEI
yeah,
um, is to no longer have funding. Now that harks back to the time not that long ago, like within my lifetime,
sure,
when the people who had charge all looked like me.
sure.
Like and were by and large, and they were male. That was certainly the sort of culture I grew up in.
Yeah,
So in a sense, it's going. It is definitely a going backwards.
mm,
I don't. And there's, the things that I have observed and I see in social media and news outlets is the impact that these
mm,
decisions are
mm,
making on such a slew of different people, from veterans, disability groups,
yeah,
uh, foreign aid, like not just people of color. No, and I don't want to diminish that because it is. It is really interesting that when we start to say from our own biases,
yeah,
I don't want to have anything other than
mm,
what I know and what looks like me and what thinks like me. We have left outside this whole range of people, like more than probably 50%. uh, I don't know the exact numbers, but when you start to think about it, if you leave
mm,
women by
yeah,
and large out, if
yes,
you leave people who are not white out,
mm,
if you leave people who have a disability of some a form out, like you are well over the 50% mark of people who are not even being part of the organisation. And
mm,
while in the short term,
yeah,
such restrictions can feel like we're getting back to solid values, da da
mm,
da da da.
mhm,
However, I think it'll be very interesting to see
mm,
what long-term impact this period of administrative decisions has
mhm,
on the economy,
yeah,
not only in the US but across the world,
sure.
because we know the US impacts globally.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just it's not just going to turn around. Like the changes that have been made um, are going to have long-term impacts. But I think sadly, it's the people who are making the decisions now will not necessarily feel the consequences of those
sure.
decisions.
Yeah,
And while ever, which which in itself is an indicator that they are not they're either not aware of their unconscious biases or they're actually deliberately and intentionally operating out of their
mm,
own biases and they want to continue in that way.
mm. Excellent point. And I think that is what I took away also from British economist Gary Stevenson. He's a very
Mm.
radical figure, but he also did float the possibility that the biases are being used in a way to exert political power. Now,
Yes.
I am a centrist, so I will leave it as that. And yeah, I think you know we live in a this world where we have parallel viewpoints, and we want to encourage parallel viewpoints because I think
Mm.
it's healthy. And I think that for me, what I really tried to do recently is to understand, really pay attention to the thought patterns of, say, the other side, right? If
Yeah.
let's say I were on the left, I try to make effort to think about people on the right, see it from their angle, and vice versa.
Yes.
Um, I've gone into, for example, conversations with people who are on the opposite end of the political spectrum,
Yes.
read their literature, watch the podcasts and so on. And I think that that's been quite eye opening,
Mm.
and to really not go in from a judgmental perspective, but rather, what can I learn from this? Truly, what are they actually saying? All the biases aside, all,
Yeah.
all the disappointment, discouragement, negative emotions, park that aside. But what is it actually what they're saying? Can I find some gems here? Can I find some
Mm.
positive bits, truly positive bits? Because I realized that could be really helpful for me personally in, say, my business, or the way I
Yeah.
relate to people and so on. Do you have
Yeah.
any thoughts on having practical ways to accepting people for who they are?
Yeah. I think uh, while I probably am not a centrist, I would say definitely not.
Sure.
And that's largely because I have been right wing. I think that was how I was raised. And interestingly enough, it was my time on Nauru that shifted my thinking more to the
Wow.
left.
Wow.
And so I think I've been in both camps. And so when you have rejected, actually, the interesting thing about that was
Mm,
because I was so intimately involved with asylum seekers, and when I
yeah.
first went there, the left side of government was in power.
Mm,
And it, from my perspective, having grown up more right wing,
sure.
um, my thought was, oh yeah, well, typical lefties, they have these attitudes to asylum seekers. And then the power shifted, and the right side of government, right as in right rather than correct, side of government came into power, and they not only took the left's policies but made them even harsher. I
Wow.
actually then felt betrayed. I
Mm,
felt that this
mm,
particular way of looking at the world
mm,
that I had embraced for so long, that I'd been raised with,
mhm.
actually now had betrayed what I felt were decent human
Yeah.
values. And that was like, I was in my mid 50s when that happened. So you can imagine having sort of 50 years of having a particular
Yeah.
viewpoint and then going, well, this is
Yeah.
even worse. So I think that has caused my shift. So I certainly can see both sides. So getting back to the question, funny about that, all going
Oh
around
no,
in
it's
circles.
great because
Um,
so we're really, hitting the core. We're extracting the value.
yes, yeah, because one of the things because people are often ask me, how do I do that? And my main response is to stay curious, ask the next question. Because so often people will resist us when we make a comment about something. And look, I'll have to be honest, I'm not really good at this, even though I give this advice. I have to keep reminding myself
Sure.
to do this. When someone comes up, say someone in my age group who has been raised with similar outlooks to the one I do, but who hasn't made the shift that I have. And I'm not saying that the shift is
Mm,
correct, but it's
sure.
correct for me. Um, and they're quite adamant
Mm,
about a
mm,
particular viewpoint, a viewpoint that I would have held maybe 15 years
mm,
ago now. And my instinctive reaction is to push back against that. I have to remind myself,
Yeah.
stay curious. Why do they still hold that viewpoint? How is this viewpoint still working for them? And if in a conversation to ask that question. And if I can give an example that's not, it's aside from politics, I was at a family, my husband's family, we have Good Friday poker games. And at one Good Friday poker game, a comment was made by one of the men, just referring to a television program that a few of us had watched, in reference to a woman being a slut. And I said, why did you call her a slut? And and he went on to say, that she was a journalist and she was sleeping with someone to get information. I said, yeah, but why is a woman called a slut and a man who does the same thing doesn't have anything negative said about them? And so it was, for me, it was one of the conversations I remember the most, because I kept pushing back, but also saying, but why? But why? But why? And I think the thing with our biases on the whole is they're just accepted ways of looking at the world. And we don't question them until someone who has a different viewpoint to us does. And after that conversation later over lunch, one of the other men came to me and said, we actually say awful things about women, don't we? And I thought, right, it's at least got him
Yeah.
thinking
Yeah.
about this. And I think that's the whole thing. We have, whether it's political, religious, cultural, sexist, ageist, I don't care what viewpoint, so often we have a viewpoint and we never challenge it
Mm,
ourselves. It's just always been part of how we think. And it's only when someone else does. And I
mm.
think challenging someone else's perspective with
Yeah.
curiosity rather than
Yeah.
condemnation
Yeah.
is key. And I have to keep reminding
Yeah.
myself to do that, because my instinctive reaction is to go, you're wrong.
Sure. And I'll cut you some slack. I mean, like that's just me myself too. I think it's just human nature. And like what you're talking about,
Mm,
safety. I think that that is such a powerful identification of the the
yeah.
reason why these mechanisms kick in. And and
Yes.
and they are not even, solid and opaque. They're sometimes porous. I remember
Yeah.
there was a write up about this really racist KKK member, the Ku Klux Klan, and yet
Yep.
he was kind to his Hispanic and Latino neighbors. He was the
Ah,
kindest man, but he was the head of the KKK chapter.
yeah.
So I don't know. I think that there's something there, a precious takeaway that we can't just maybe sweep everyone into this bucket, and assume that everyone's the same. It's
Mm,
fascinating, and also I like what you said about you know um, you being in Nauru. I think that that's such a powerful thing to be teleported out of our comfort zone physically into right smack bang it right into
yep.
physically right into the culture or the epicenter, to be in a city of the people whom we
Mm,
would never think we would be with, and just to experience
yeah.
a few days, would be like complete culture shock, and I think that's a healthy thing. Yeah.
Certainly. And it was not only, and I love the way you said that, teleported, because it literally
Mm,
was on a plane. But it was not only working with the asylum seekers, who came from the Middle East largely, and also from Sri Lanka, but also because I was into a Pacific Island
yeah.
culture. Now, that's a very different culture to Australian culture, or white Australian
Sure.
culture. I'll be a bit
Yeah.
more specific. So, just even that
Mm,
in itself, respecting their traditions, respecting their modesty, You know, we were encouraged as women to wear shorts and a t-shirt over our swimmers when we went
Mm,
swimming. And that, you know, that makes no sense to me in Australian culture, but that was their culture, and it was just about
mm,
respecting that. So yeah, I think you're quite right. I see it. It was one of the well, it was the most pivotal experience of my life because it shook me to the core in so many different ways, and you know, so but having chosen to go there
mm,
first of all, and then chosen to ask for a full-time
mm,
position there, it was just the right thing to be there. And I don't regret it. And just before we came on, I'm looking on Facebook, and a young couple that I met on Nauru who were asylum seekers from Iran. So they're Christian people who'd fled Iran because they were afraid of
sure.
persecution for
Yeah.
their faith. And when I met them, oh, look, they were only in their early 20s. So I probably met them 10 years ago now. And they were in their early 20s. The young woman didn't have any English. Her husband had some English. She was so afraid, shaken, upset. I met them again last year. They're now living in Sydney. She was pregnant. The photos I was looking at today were of their lovely little
Oh,
boy. And I just had this wave of emotion going over and thinking, what a rich life I've had. And I wouldn't have known
mm,
these people except that I went
mm,
to Nauru. I would never have met them. And yet, what they have added to my life and how my life has changed because I've known them and known people like them, you can't buy that.
yeah. Yeah. I love what you the word you use, rich, because I think that experiences
Mm,
like that really enrichen us and are just so worth it. Yeah.
I do.
Like you said, it's not anything money can buy. So you,
Mm.
dear person who's watching this, take note, because that could be the best investment you could ever do. Volunteer
Yeah,
somewhere or just go on a plane ride to a place you would never go to and have your eyes open.
yeah.
With that, I will
Yep, indeed.
conclude the time because I have promised Bron that it's only half an hour. So, Bron, I really enjoyed the conversation with you. I think like we could just do this for hours, but we are limited by time. So, thank you very much, Bron. How can your fans and the people who want to invite you to speak at their events get contact with you?
The easiest way is to look me up on LinkedIn. I'm Bron Williams on LinkedIn. So come and stalk me over there in the nicest possible way. You can find me at my website, bronwilliams.com, or give me an email at info@bronwilliams.com. I like to keep it simple.
Simple is nice. I love it. Thank you, Bron. Thank you very
Yeah.
much for your time. I really appreciate it. And everybody else watching this, I hope that you can take away something wonderful from what we just said, and that you will learn to be curious and have the awareness that maybe things aren't what they really seem to be. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.